Hey, this is Billy with the Wild Way podcast. We are so excited for 2021. We believe that this is going to be a great year of purpose where every person can walk in their eternal purpose. And so we are excited for what's coming up. We would like you, if you've enjoyed this content, to go on YouTube and subscribe, to leave us a review wherever you're listening, to share with a friend, leave a comment, and check us on social media, wherever you're at. We got some big announcements coming up, some exciting things for this next year, and we really believe in this message, and we believe that you do too, and we want to get it out there to other people. So like, comment, share, subscribe wherever you're at, and enjoy this episode. Welcome back to the Wild Way podcast.
Welcome back.
What is up? Where we want to inspire every man to live with eternal purpose every day, because we believe if you find your why, you'll find your way. And man, we were joined this morning or this afternoon, wherever you're listening, man, with our buddy Andrew. Honey Drew Boo. Andrew Arcangeli, the Archangel himself.
The one and only.
The one and only.
Ah, man, this is high praise.
Look, you turned red already.
I'm melting over here.
Oh, man. Andrew, for people that don't know you, tell us what you do, and then, man, we'll get into your story and just how you found purpose and walk with purpose every day.
Cool, definitely. Well, my name is Andrew Maurice Arcangeli. That's my full name. I'm 27 years old. I live here in Philadelphia. I'm currently a television editor. Sometimes I produce. I used to be a technical director, WHYY. I've been doing TV for about 5 years now, and creative pursuits pretty much entangle my entire life. And I believe that ministering to children and blessing children with entertainment and television and cartoons and media, things of that sort, more child-oriented entertainment is my calling in life. So yeah.
Man, that is awesome.
That was an amazing intro.
Man, it's just, I feel like it was a bit too stoic. I mean, that's not really how I am. You know?
I need to learn how to talk about myself like that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah. It's been a long journey to get to where I'm at now, but I don't want to jump ahead. What were you about to say?
Yeah, no, I was, so many things, to be honest. But first of all, like, what got you into television editing?
So, man, it's really interesting. You know how when you go to college and like you've had all these rules your whole life, you're just like, bro, I'm gonna go to the buffet. Like, I'm going to go to the buffet at just like 2 o'clock in the morning for that late night dinner and just get as much of the leftover hot dogs and hamburgers as I can, because no one can tell me not to. That's kind of how I was with TV. When I was a kid, there was no cable in my house. So like I had to watch PBS, and PBS is very much like Nova Now and Arthur and like all this stuff that isn't really, it's good for kids, but it wasn't like what I wanted to watch. You know, like what I wanted to watch was Samurai Jack and Rugrats and all this crazy stuff that I can only watch if I was at a hotel for some reason, or if I was at a friend's house. And the friends, like the kids, have TV on all day. So it's like they've seen this stuff so many times. So I'm like, whoa, man, like I'm trying to watch Toonami. And they're like, no, dude, like let's go outside and play quad. So like I was always enraptured by stories and animation and video. As far back as I can remember, I've always been drawing. That's like the one thing that I've been really good at. So I instantly felt the connection to cartoons. And so pretty much what happened is I was drawing all throughout school. I was getting in trouble for it a lot because it was the only way I could pay attention was to draw. Yeah. So my teacher in 4th grade would be talking about the capital of Louisiana, and I'm just drawing a picture of Sonic. She would come over.
Drawing pictures of Sonic.
And just be like, what is this? You know, and like show it to the whole class. Like, oh, this is what Mr. Arcangeli feels fit to do. And I'd be like, oh. So like there was a lot of shame, I guess, early on with being creative. I felt that it had no place in the adult world at the time as a kid. And it was something that really resonated with me. And it didn't really make me bitter, but it made me think like, man, is what I'm doing wrong? So I kept doing it. Because that's the thing as a kid, you find a secret place. I'm not sure if you guys can relate, but you find something that feels like no one can touch, right? And that's what drawing felt like to me. Like I can draw whatever I want. I can make whatever I want. And I kept doing that. And I found that it was negatively seen at school in these places where I should be paying attention, but positively reinforced by my family and friends. That was really awkward as a kid. As a lot of kids describe themselves, I was somebody who I guess was intimidated coming from a home setting and then being put into a public setting, like a kindergarten around other kids. And so I didn't really know how to interact. So my interactions were all just drawing. Like, hey, like, do you like Pikachu? Like, I can draw Pikachu. And like, they found value in me. They're like, yo, this guy can draw Charmander. Like, can you draw Blastoise, bro? Like, and so like, I immediately became this commodity. And, you know, it's not that they were like interested in being my friend, but it was more like this kid can draw. And through that, I was sowing friendships. And when I look back at it now, that kind of is the thesis of my life. So as I got older, I've always been involved in the church. So I was born in the church. My grandfather was a minister. My great-grandfather was a minister. My dad was the first one not to go into the ministry. He became an engineer. But I was born and raised in the church, Philadelphia Christian Center. Shout out to you guys. That was my home church. And I was part of a great youth group, which I'm going to talk about extensively. But I got into what could be considered fine arts, AG Fine Arts. I'm not sure if you guys ever heard about it.
No, tell us about it.
So Assemblies of God has a fine arts competition where they take churches from all over the nation, and you can participate in any artistic thing that there's a Christian message that they decide every year. And the message is always one word. So it'll be like extraordinary. And like you have to make something or do something or have a sermon pertaining to extraordinary. And then you get judged at sectionals. And then if you win sectionals, you go to regionals. And then if you win regionals, you go to nationals. And there's actually a winner. And then they give you like a scholarship. And it's a big deal. Like it is a huge Christian youth event where they just rent out stadiums. And, you know, they have these like really top of the line ministers come and talk to kids. Like, so regionals would be in Hershey, Pennsylvania. So we'd go to the hockey stadium in Hershey, Pennsylvania, and there'd be worship, planet shakers, like all this crazy stuff. And then there would be, you know, a sermon. So one year, I think I always did 2D art. So I always did a picture, and I was pretty good at it.
You said you did what?
2D art,
2D
two-dimensional. So like there's painting, there's 2D art, which is me drawing. And I remember one year I made it to nationals in Detroit. So it was really cool because, everybody who made it to nationals, you know, a lot of my friends were preaching sermons. So like what they had to do at nationals was way different. Yeah. So they were rehearsing this whole time, and they would go to Detroit, and you know, they'd have to go into a big conference center, like where they hold a Comic-Con, and there'd be these different rooms and be a panel of pastors judging people doing sermons. My thing was very different. Like I had a drawing, and it was in a gallery, and people could look at it. So like I would just be in the back, like watching my friends give sermons, like making funny faces. And, you know, I had no responsibility. I drew a picture. I made it to nationals by the grace of God. And now I just get to clown around and be in a hotel with my friends. So it was really cool. And I got out of school. It was awesome. I'm really grateful for my parents and for my church that I had the opportunity to do that as a young person, because it really helped a lot in my development.
That's cool. So how old were you?
At this time I'm like 16, and I'm getting to the full circle. Sorry, I talk a lot.
No, but this is cool. So when did in your life this stream of faith and art begin to intersect?
Right.
Was it before this, or
it's right at nationals in Detroit. Okay. So I go to the Red Wing Stadium, and it's rented out for this event. And an evangelist by the name of Robert Madu was speaking, and he gets up on stage. And at this point, I'm so tired from fine arts. I've been partying with my friends. We just had a huge worship service, and I'm like, what is this guy gonna say? And he looks into the crowd and he goes, "Man, look at all this dirt." And I was like, what did he just say? And he goes, "Look at all this dirt, man." He's like, "There's a lot of dirt. I could see dirt out there moving." He goes, "You know that Genesis says that God made us all from the ground. He made us from the earth." He's like, "So we are all essentially dirt." And he just started laughing to himself. Like no one was laughing, but I was like, I'm enraptured. Like, what is he going to say next? He goes, "Think about what we do with our dirt, man." He's like, "We manicure it. We work it out." He's like, "We do all this crazy stuff." He's like, "We criticize our dirt." He goes, "And eventually, you know what I'm saying?" He's like, "We die in our dirt." He goes, "But how many know that in every story and every old fable, there's something buried in dirt?" And he goes, "There's always a treasure." He's like, "Right? In every pirate story, there's always a treasure buried in the dirt." He goes, "Each and every one of you are here because you have a treasure buried inside of you." And I just was like, everything else kind of like blanked out. And I was looking at this guy, and he goes, "Every human being has a gift." He goes, "And you guys are here because you're very talented in arts." He's like, "But maybe you're listening to this and you're like, I can't sing, I can't dance, I can't preach a sermon. Maybe I don't have a gift." And he's like, a gift doesn't look like a conventional talent. He's like, maybe you're good at greeting people at church. Maybe you're good at listening. Like, maybe you're good at opening a door for somebody. He's like, maybe you're a really good friend. That's a gift. And then he just went on to explain, we all have gifts and we all have to use them for God. We have to use them for God. We have to use them for others. And we have to use them for ourselves, you know, if we're trying to live and make money. And he kind of broke down all three of those, but obviously using it for God and for ministry as the primary cause. And that sermon changed my life forever, man. I'm getting shaken up talking about it because like it really got me through a lot, man. And so I just decided like, I got to live with purpose, man. Like, I have a gift and I have to use it to help other people. And it was from that day on that I decided like, maybe I'm gonna do some stuff with this, man.
Yeah.
So I go to high school. And in high school, I'm completely disenfranchised with school. I'm like, oh gosh, please get me out of here. This is so hard. When of course it wasn't.
Charles can't associate that with that at all.
What?
He was a straight A student the whole way through, right?
You got it.
I mean, dude, I wish I could say I was the same. I was really bad at school. Quick background about me, man. My mom is kind of a super genius, and she never got anything less than an A in her life. She got like a complete free ride to Temple.
That's crazy.
And so here I am, like getting in trouble for drawing in class, like, and I have C's and stuff like that. And she just did not like that. My dad pulled me aside, and I remember he's like, "Hey, man," he goes, "Your mom cares a lot about grades because she cares about you and she cares about your future." But he goes, "Let me tell you something." He goes, "I'm an engineer. I work for Subaru of America. And when I went to Trenton Community College, I failed a class because I forgot that I even had it." He's like, "I just didn't show up to it." And he put his hand on my shoulder. I must have been about like 14 at the time. So we're going back a little bit. And he goes, "When you get out into the real world, they don't care about your grades. They care about if I write you a check, can you produce?" And that was another thing that I was like, oh, snap. So, of course, I never threw that in my mom's face. That would be tactless to do. But it was something that I always thought about. And kids, if you're watching this, get good grades in school. Your future's important. But please know that you should cultivate your skill, and that is something that should be a primary objective with your time. Get good grades, though. So, yeah, I was in high school, and I was completely disenfranchised.
Hold on a second. I got to come back.
I'm probably going really fast. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
That was what you said was really good as a 14-year-old to have the perspective of being skill-based and not just like achieving within the system.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's so important, especially as a creative, and really as anybody who's trying to live with purpose.
Yeah.
Is that we've got to see ourselves as becoming masters.
Yes.
Like I'm gaining a set of skills unto mastery because only when I have a skill can I serve.
Yes.
If I don't have skills, if I haven't cultivated friendship or being good at opening a door or art, I have no value to add to the world.
That's why the Bible describes the church as a body, right? And it's like, it's better to be a master of one than a jack of all trades. Because together, if we're all masters of one, bro, then we got a mastered body.
Exactly.
A mastered body is a body that can do a backflip and catch a bullet. You know what I'm saying? Like, dude, that's the kind of body that you want, bro.
Yeah.
So like, I totally agree with that, man.
Yeah.
It's a really good point.
Yeah. Nah, I'm just, to be honest, I'm still stuck on that Robert Madu message. Just hearing those words, literally, I know you already. Like, we all know each other. We're friends. But hearing you explain that, I just understand you so much more.
Yeah.
Like, it makes so much sense why you are the way that you are,
man. I mean,
because of that message.
He was saying that, you know, the outside, what he was saying is our outside is going to perish. But like, what you sow with your gift, like, that lives forever. You know what I'm saying? Like, think about your favorite movie. All the directors and actors can die, but like that movie
art will live forever.
That art will live forever, man. And the message that movie sends, if it's a positive message, that will live forever. So like that's a really important thing. But yeah, I'm in high school, and there's this thing called the Ryan K. Wilson Film Fest. So there's an AV club at my high school called OTN Owl Television Network because we had Owl as our mascot. And it was a big deal in our school. Like, getting into that class was very hard. And what it was is you were basically the TV production team for the school, and they did a lot of fun things. And you got a lot of special privileges. But I just looked at it as, I'm about to be a senior. It's too late for that, you know? So there's this film fest called the Ryan K. Wilson Film Fest, and it was held in honor every year of a student at Ben Salem High School, which is the high school I went to, that committed suicide. His name is Ryan K. Wilson. And so what they would do, it would be like a Thursday night every year. They would show on the screen footage of Ryan and just like some of the videos that he made, and it was all in black and white, and there was a song underneath it, and it would say in honor of Ryan K. Wilson, and then student films would start. So like everybody in that OTN class would have a student film, and there would be a student film winner, and they'd be the winner of OTN, and then they'd get free headshots, and they get a trophy, and like they'd get money. And so our whole school would show up to like Film Fest. Not our whole school, maybe like a good portion. And they would watch like the student films, and they'd be so funny because they're from like all our classmates, and it would be in the auditorium, so it would be on this big screen. And I remember I went as a junior, so it was right before I was a senior, and I went. No, it was a sophomore actually. I went and I watched the movies, and I go, "Wow, this is so cool." And there was this kid that won, and he went up on stage and he got a trophy, and everybody clapped, and I said, "I want to win Film Fest," but I wasn't even in the class. So I had some friends that were in the class, and I hit them up the next year, which is 2011, my junior year, and I go, "Hey, are you guys doing a movie?" And they're like, "Yeah, but we don't know what we're gonna do." And I was like, "Let me write your movie." And so I wrote the movie, and I was like, "Can I be a character in the movie?" And they're like, "Yeah, go ahead. Like, we have no idea what to do, and this is an assignment for our class." Like, so I took over, and I made a kung fu movie called Crouching Agent Hidden Duck Sauce, and it was just a really bad kung fu movie where it was supposed to be bad, where like the mouths were all like, "You do not know what you're doing." Like, and so we like dubbed it over, and we would make the characters say like crazy stuff. Like I had my friend Ben, like really tough, like he would just crunch a soda can in the camera, and he was like, boom, and he'd go, "I drink soda." Like just insane stuff, like where it was just out of this world, like crazy. Yeah. And so I made that, and Film Fest came around, and all the films are playing, and we came in the auditorium dressed as the characters from the movie. So I had like my karate suit on, like my friend who was a secret agent had like the suit on. So we're sitting in there, and we watch the movies, we watch all the movies, everybody's laughing and stuff. Some of them were bad, you know, we'd cringe, and then some of them were really good. We're like, "Oh, maybe that one's gonna win." And drum roll, this is third place, this is second place, and boom, first place, I won. And I was like, wow. And so I get up on stage, I get the trophy, and I was like, this is exactly like how I would imagine it to go. And it made me feel like maybe this video thing is something that I want to do for a split second. And then I was like, nah, you know what I'm saying? Like at this point in high school, I didn't even know if I wanted to draw anymore. Like I kind of lost myself, because I was thinking like, everyone's telling me like while I'm drawing, they're like, it's really good. And the teachers are saying, you should go to art school. And then I'm hearing at the same time from other people, there's no money in that. You know, that's, you know, you got to pay attention. You got to get a job that like makes money. You know, you should try and be a lawyer, try and be a doctor. So I started to get confused. Like I lost vision of what I wanted to do. So I was just like, this is cool. I guess it's just a testament to my achievement. Like I was sitting in the stands, I saw the stage, and I said, one day I want to be up here. And now I'm up here, and that's it. The moment's done. So, well,
it's definitely a testament of a lot of things, right? You have a real gift.
Yeah.
You worked hard. You had a clear vision, and you had a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Isn't that so cool? It's like when you're in your gifting, you have fun doing what you're like designed to do.
Yeah. And it's really interesting that I think my whole pursuit in life is kind of based off a kid's pursuit, which is we wake up every day and we're like, oh man, there's so much stuff I got to do. Like I got to go clean the garage. I got to go come here and podcast. I got to go do this and do that. The kid wakes up every morning and goes, how can I have the most fun today? That's a kid only has one objective. It's like, how can I have fun? And that's always been me. Like God has given me a calling, which I'm very grateful for, which is to wake up every day and love what I'm doing and have fun with what I'm doing. And I think if you're doing that, then you can live a really great life, because God's going to call you to do something that you enjoy, because that would be the most optimal life for you. So what ends up happening, and I got to speed through this story because I'm going too slow, but pretty much I walk into the OTN class after I win, and the teacher goes, who's this guy? He's not allowed in here. He's not part of the class. And they're like, he's the guy who wrote the movie. Like, he won. And he's like, you're the guy who wrote the movie? You're not even part of this class. And I was like, yeah, I just wanted to write a movie. And so I'm walking out, and he goes, wait, like, why aren't you in this class? Why aren't you part of this class? Like, you're this or that? And I'm like, no, I just don't have time. And he goes, what do you mean you don't have time? I have one more year in this high school. So he goes, all right, you don't have to do the intro class, which is what everybody else had to do. He's like, you don't have to do the intro class. Just come into the studio class. He's like, I like what you did. So senior year comes around, and we have to do a presentation in this OTN class about what are you going to be in the future? And I didn't want to write what I actually wanted to be because it felt silly. Like, it felt too ambitious. And so I decided that I was going to do a presentation on going into public relations. So I got in front of the class and I do this presentation on going into public relations. And my high school teacher goes, all right, that's good. Like, and the bell rings, and I'm about to leave. And he's like, Arcangeli. And I turn around, I'm like, what? And he just has his head down and his finger like this. And I'm like, oh boy. So I walk over, and I was like, what's up, man? And he says, what the blank was that? And he starts getting really, really mad. And I was like, I'm sorry, dude, only like 2 days to put the presentation together. And he's like, no, it's not the presentation. He's like, what you're talking about. He's like, you're going to go into human resources? He's like, you can draw, you can make videos, you can write. He's like, you can edit. Like you did the senior video. He goes, you know, you're giving the announcements every morning at school. He's like, you're going to go into public relations? And he looked at me in my eyes. He goes, you have a gift. It would be such a waste for you to go into human resources. And he said, ultimately, it's your life, but you can do whatever you want. And that like woke me up and just reminded me of what Robert Madu said. And ever since then, man, ever since that talk, I've been hell-bent hell-bent's not the appropriate Christian word.
We'll get what you're saying.
I've been motivated, strongly motivated to live in my purpose and in my calling. So to get you real quick caught up to where I am now, go to college. College is a blast. A lot of stuff happens.
Where'd you go to school?
I went to Temple University.
Come on, Temple.
Yeah, man. I mean, everybody. It's
what was the major?
It's
TU?
TU town. So like, dude, I went to Temple and I was like, I don't know if there's a major for me. And then there's the loosest major there, and I recommend anybody that's gonna do TV. It's called Media Studies and Production. Dude,
Yes.
dude,
I've met a lot of kids that have done that.
my classes, I had a class called Film Comedy where you would go into the class. It was a lecture hall. You'd watch a comedy movie and then you'd talk about what made it funny. So like I have my friends
Sounds like
who
the
are,
Wayans brothers life.
my friends are doing like biology degrees, but they're probably making biology money, I'm not gonna lie. And like, you know, they're like, oh bro, I have to write this thesis paper. I was like, yeah, I gotta write about this. I gotta write about Home Alone 2, man. So I mean, I had a great time in college, and to tell you all the stories would take up all the time. But what comes about is I become an executive producer of a show at Temple TV called Temple Talk, which is still around today. It was created by Luke Fry. Shout out to Luke Fry. And that was a really cool thing because I got to meet the director of Temple TV, which is Paul Gluck, and he helped me get my first internship later. But I graduated college, and I did all this crazy stuff, and immediately I couldn't find a job. And I was like, God, why? Like, I'm being called to my purpose. I know that they said it would be hard to find a TV job, but that's for other people. That's not for me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I had all this like drive that I think a young person has. And when you graduate from college, as I'm sure a lot of people realize, I mean, a lot of people get the post-college blues because the days of partying are over and no responsibility are over. But I got it because I was like, I'm trying to find a job and I can't find one.
Well, to cut you off, I think a lot of people feel that.
Yeah,
I
dude.
mean, I studied engineering and I felt that.
Totally.
I had other buddies, and it's just like in life, you lose your structure.
Yeah.
Right. And even if you don't love school, provides this structure for you that once you're out, it's like there's no rules anymore.
Yeah.
Kind of similar of how you described it earlier.
And that's crazy to hear you say that you had that with engineering. Because a lot of people will lead you to believe as a student that like, as an engineer, like you will have no problem finding a job, but you're totally right, man. Everybody feels that way. It's tough all around. So I felt guilty being at my parents' house and not working. So I immediately got a job as a mover and junk removal guy at a company in West Philadelphia. And let me tell you, boy, every single day was a new adventure. I'm working with ex-cons, bro. I'm going into hoarders' houses. I'm taking out half of their like takeout and cat poop in bags. I'm doing that, and then I'm going into rich people's houses that have not only their parents living in them, but with their grandparents living with them, with an indoor gym. And so I'm seeing everything, and I'm learning a lot of lessons because the guys I'm working with are way older than me. A lot of them have been to prison, and they got some life wisdom. So I was on a lot of adventures with that, but it started breaking me, bro. Like a year in, I'm like, almost a year, and it was probably like maybe like, I don't know. It was what it was doing to me. I was thinking like, dude, if I let myself slip into this, because it's kind of fun, I'm gonna be doing this forever. But it's also breaking me because it's physically demanding. So I prayed to God. I was like, God, like you need to get me out of this. Like I need to find a way back on my path. And I was really depressed, and I was talking to my dad. I was like, dude, I feel bad that like I'm living here, and you know, I'm about to be 24, and he just looked at me in my eyes and he goes, you are not a burden. And I'm so grateful that I have parents like this, because I know a lot of people listening may not. And I got to say, it's all glory to God, but I've been blessed with some really awesome family. And he looked me in my eyes and he's like, you are not a burden. He goes, your full-time job right now is to find a job. And he's like, and that can take as long as it takes, man. And he goes, but in the meantime, we love having you here. And so that took all the pressure off. But in my head, I was like, I'm not going to let those words go to waste.
Yeah.
So every day I came back from the moving jobs, dude, I'd go on Craigslist and I would just search TV, and I would hit everything. I don't care how ridiculous it was. I don't care if TV was just part of a word that was in the description, like the 2 letters, I would apply to it. And I got a call, man, from this guy. this guy who was working at just a small office, kind of like this, and he was assistant editing for a show that was being filmed like out in Wisconsin. And he saw my resume, and I came in and he interviewed. And he goes, you're a pretty big guy. I was like, yeah, I'm a mover by day. He's like, well, he goes, hopefully here, like, you won't be breaking your back as much. And as soon as he said that, I was like, that's it. I'm in. I got it. Mm-hmm. And I started assistant editing. That's where I began my TV career. And what that is, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar.
What was the name of this job?
It's been so long, man. But not Calkins Media. That's where I went to. That's Prime to Go. It was Prime to Go Productions in Lehigh. I think they still might be there. So anyway, I was at Prime to Go Productions. Thank you, because I forgot to say the name. And when I'm there, I'm assistant editing. I'm not sure if you guys like know what that is, but so every TV show you watch, every shot is labeled. So like everything you see, if there was like a lower third that showed the shot list, it would be like close up of host, like wide shot of host, like, so everything has to be labeled so that the chief editor, when he comes in, he knows what he's editing with and he can just pull everything together, right? CU is close shot, XCU is extreme close shot, and so on. So my job was just to sit and with these thousands of clips, like click, extreme close shot, click, close up. And I had to do it for 10 hours a day. So my shift was 10 hours and I got paid $10 an hour. So I'd walk away 10 hours looking at a computer with $100. And again, like I got hit. I was like,
Grinded,
God,
man.
God, why? is this my fate? It's so funny though, man, because when you're young, you really don't have a reference for time. Like because your whole life, you're like, and next year I'll be in 12th grade, you know? And so this was kind of that thing where a guy was like, and like now you're out here, like you got to do it. You got to make your way. So it was a contract job. So contract was up. They're like, hey man, we don't have any more shows for you to do. Our season's done. Like, see you, goodbye. You know, it's nothing personal, but like you gotta leave. And I kept the keys just in case. I was like, all right. So
Sneak
so
back in here and edit some of my own videos.
Yeah, exactly. Like I was like, maybe I can use technology of my own. So they just kind of shooed me out, and I left, and I was praying to God. I was like, God, I want to work for WHYY, and the reason why is because I grew up watching that station, and it's like it's a pretty good station here, and they do stuff that's not just like news. They also do a little bit of creative stuff, and I started really praying about that. I was like, wouldn't it be cool, like if that's what ended up happening? So I applied to them, and you know, I have this interview, and I feel great. Put the suit on, everything's good. Turns out that they knew a boss from my previous job, and you know, everything's cool. And I didn't get the job, and it was crushing, man, because there was like a month wait, but it was one of those waits where you constantly have to remind them, like, hey, can you get back to me? And I found out I didn't get it. So I got this other job at Bucks County Courier-Times, which is the local newspaper. And you're probably wondering, like, oh, like, how'd you get a TV job there? It wasn't TV. So at this point, like, I went back to a different track. It was video. They had an idea there that they wanted to do a 24-hour video service where they just had news playing on their website 24 hours. So it was my job to just kind of produce these videos and loop them so that, you know, you could log online and just see them on any day pretty much. And I worked at that job for a full year, and I was thinking, like, in my mind, I was just thinking, wow, I can't believe that I didn't get that job. Like, I don't really like this as much, and I don't know, like, maybe I should change. I was second guessing myself, and that was something that I guess was only remedied by going and hanging out with my Christian friends, which is, guys, I highly recommend, if you're not plugged into a group of believers or people that you can just go to for spiritual reinforcement, like, that is something that's so important. I ended up going to Detroit to hang out with my friend for, I think it was maybe like his 24th or 25th birthday. And we have a pretty insane night. And, you know, it's one of those times where you're away from your real world and you're really thinking about stuff. And I remember I just kind of accepted. I was like, you know what? I'm stressed out at home with this 24-hour job, which is kind of stressful, but it's all in God's hands. Like, God's going to control what happens next. So we have a great night. We spend it in a little college town. Then we go back to a hotel that we were spending our trip on. And my two friends start fighting. They get into like a serious fight. Like, at first it started with like a little tit for tat. Like, you know, you're this, you're that. Like, oh, you think that's what you think? And they start full on fighting, dude. And I look up for
Fists and all.
What?
Fists and all.
Dude, fists and all. Come on. Bottles.
Now we're interested.
Through a glass
Yo,
bottle.
yeah,
Dude.
glass
So like
bottles.
I have two friends. There's one of my friends is sitting on the hotel bed next to me. I'm on my hotel bed on the other side of the room. and then 2 of them are fighting in front of the TV. My one friend is laughing, right? He's laughing hysterically, and the 2 friends that are fighting are actually breaking stuff. So I'm like, oh my gosh. I get up and I'm like, you guys need to stop fighting. And dude, it got so intense that like one of them started crying, and I was like, whoa, this night's like completely out of control. So we ended up not getting any sleep. Eventually they drifted to bed, and I was like still looking out the window, just like, how am I going to explain this torn up hotel room? And I was just looking out the window, and I see my phone like lights up, and the number, I don't know the number at all. And so I just pick it up. I'm in the middle of like just glass everywhere, and I'm like, hello? And they're like, hey, this is WHYY. Is this Andrew Arcangeli? And I'm like, yes, it is. And like I immediately like close the door, and I'm like, what's going on? They're like, we made a mistake. That's the first thing they said. They go, we offered a job to somebody who immediately pulled out for a better offer. They're like, we'd like you to come back and take this position. And what was really interesting about that is that didn't happen until I fully surrendered. And I was like, well, I have to think about it. You gotta play it coy. At the time,
play hard to get.
At the time, my newspaper job, they gave me a phone and a laptop. Like, I have to see. But I immediately just like shut off the phone. I was so excited. I was like, wow, the same thing that happened with the film fest. How I said like, I kind of want to be up on that stage. It's kind of what happened here when I prayed to God. Like, I want to work for WHYY. Like, can that happen? And I'm not saying God is a genie. Like, that's not what I'm trying to convey with the story. What I'm trying to say, or that prayer is like some remedy to get what you want. Prayer is really just communicating with God. But what I am saying is that if you have a strong calling and you know that God is trying to put you somewhere, don't be afraid to ask. Man. You have to ask. Ask and the door should be open. And that was like a huge message for me. So I got the job and I started working there. And I've been working there ever since, man. I did a lot of cool stuff. I worked on a TV show called On Tour, where we go and record local concerts. We did Wyclef Jean. We did a whole bunch of crazy stuff. They did Naughty by Nature. Then that show got canceled. Now I'm working on a daily entertainment show. And it's been a struggle since coronavirus because, you can't go out and tape stuff live. People don't want people to be around each other and stuff like that. But I've been working the TV industry ever since. And there's a million side projects I do. I do a comic book. That's not a million. There's a lot. I do a comic book. I do a podcast.
Plug it. What's the name?
I mean, we can plug that stuff at the end. I appear on other people's podcasts because people like to hear me talk, I guess. So that's where I'm at now, man. And I can truly say that it's been hard. I'm definitely going through a rough season right now. But the one thing that does bring me comfort, there's 2 things. One, God's put really good people in my life, like amazing, awesome people in my life. And you guys are definitely part of that. And the other thing is that I truly believe I'm walking in my purpose, man. I truly believe that when I wake up, I'm doing what I was meant to do every single day. And not a lot of people can say that. And I'm not saying that makes me an exclusive class. What that makes me is very, very blessed. You know what I'm saying? And I believe that my obedience is going to be rewarded. And so that's where I'm at, man. I'm just out here hustling. The dream is to work in cartoons. I've had a lot of crazy interviews. I interviewed with Marvel Comics, I think back in 2013, and that was an experience, man. That was literally Marvel's interview room is set up like the Avengers table. So they have like the actual like Avengers chairs and table and stuff like that. And I remember when I was in Marvel Comics, I was like, but like on the inside, on the outside, I was just like, oh yeah, this is very nice. They had like Iron Man's suit in a glass case and Spider-Man's suit in a glass case. And I remember they were about to go into the Avengers room and they're like, no, we have to use another room for this. And I was like, dude, I was about to sit in there. But yeah, fun fact about me, which is probably apparent to people that know me, but not to anybody that is watching this. I'm very passionate about God and I guess the calling I have in my life to reach people through entertainment. But I'm also just a huge nerd, dude. I love anime, I love manga, I love comics, I love video games. It's a big part of me and my personal culture. So yeah, going somewhere like that was crazy. But that's where I'm at right now, man. I'm just having a pretty crazy journey trying to get to what I believe is my calling. Yeah. And every day getting closer.
Well, that's so cool, man, because you're obviously growing in your calling. Like it's so life is like this, You look back and things look so clear, but in the middle of it, you're like, oh, this is anything but clear.
Yeah, exactly.
So you can see how each step is like preparing you for the next. Totally. And so very obviously God's going to open a door for you, the right door that's next to get to you to where you need to go. But I just want to go back.
Yeah, sorry if I zipped through.
No. It's all great stuff. But yeah, let's go back to high school, because I know a lot of us growing up, we have negative messages, insecurities, things, just high schoolers being high schoolers. They kind of like hold us back and make us feel insecure about who we are. And especially I'd imagine as a creative or, drawing a lot, just being that guy. So can you walk us through, what were some of those hurdles that you had to overcome in your identity, socially, and, how did you process just becoming Andrew that God has made you to be?
Yeah, man. The first thing I got to recommend to anybody who's creative is you really have to look at what you're good at is something that not a lot of people can say they're good at.
Yeah.
And that's special in and of itself. It may not be rewarded. If you're listening to this right now, it may not be rewarded in the same way that athletics is. And no shame to athletics, bro. I wish I could play football, bro. I wish I could do that kind of stuff.
Andrew, you can play football.
No, I
Stop
can't.
lying.
I can't, bro. I can't catch a ball. I really can't. I can't catch a ball. I can't
You
kick.
can be a lineman.
Yeah, okay, so I have size, but like I don't
Stand
even know.
there and push.
Yeah, right. You know what I'm saying? I played football for a little bit in high school, but I wasn't any good. Like I feel like when you're in that hierarchy called high school, you're like, wow, like arts and creativity isn't awarded the same way that athleticism isn't awarded. And it's not that it isn't acknowledged, it's just unsung. Like I was the guy who made all the class t-shirts. It's like that's what they knew me as. Like, oh, I'm wearing a t-shirt with your drawing on it. I was like, yeah, great. So you have to look at the place that you're in isn't going to necessarily value your skill the way that like you think it should be aggrandized, but you'll see on a individual level that people really respect you for what you do. Yeah. If you have a skill that you're really good at and that you've been blessed with by God, the people around you will recognize it and they'll see it as a blessing. That's number one. And two is I struggled through high school with drawing in class too, man. I don't know what it is. I don't want to call it ADD. I'm not sure if I have a disorder, but it's just easier for me to pay attention when I was drawing. And even in the driver's ed class, I had the same thing that happened to me in fourth grade. I had the teacher pick it up and he goes, well, this is what Mr. Arcangeli does. But the only difference was in high school, everybody knew who I was.
Yeah.
So they were just like, oh no, how is he going to react? And I was just so cool about it. I was just like, it was just a joke. But that's the thing is you got to realize that not a lot of people are going to come outright and say that, hey, you have a gift and you should do this. Like you should go and do that. Yeah. And the problem is you have a lot of people who aren't living in their calling and purposes because they never had that affirmation from somebody else. I did when I was in high school. Yeah. That speech that the teacher gave me where he's like, you need to do this. Somebody believed in me before I believed in myself. But to anybody who's listening, man, you have to take that initiative for you. You have to recognize this is a gift that God has given me and it's important. I'm a jar of dirt and everybody has a gift in their dirt. And that's it. It's all equal. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's important also for people to speak into other people's lives. So if you see something in somebody else, to speak it. Because if you hadn't heard that message from Robert Madu or that encouragement from your father, who knows if you would have had this mindset.
Charles, dude, thank you so much for reminding me of that. That's the number one thing I do when somebody opens up and they're like, hey, listen to my music. And I listen to it and they're just like, what do you think? Or I always go like, dude, you know what I'm saying? Like that's all, even like if it was bad, I'll be like, there's some stuff that you got to work on, but that's great, man. And you always thank somebody for sharing with you. Thank you so much for sharing with me. And I hate when people say like, I'm an aspiring artist. It's like, no, you're an artist, bro. You may not be at the level of skill that you want to be, but you're an artist. You're making art. And so Charles, thank you. Yeah. You obviously lift up the people around you. If you see somebody has a gift, you appreciate it, man. So yeah, when I got out into school and away from my parents, I guess I was just so shell shocked because I was so sheltered that people would dare to be like, you can't do that here. But as an adult, you realize that, wow, people find value in this, to the point where I have like my own thing right now called Arcangeli Design. You can add Arcangeli Design Instagram.
Plug Arcangeli Design.
Shameless plug, and I'll make you stuff that you want to make. So I've been taking art commissions for the past 2 years now, and it's cool. I talked to a guy named Brian Freilander when I was working at WHYY on a Gritty mini documentary that we did about the mascot Gritty. And his whole job, dude, is he just designs mascots. So sports teams are like, hey, man, like we want something that kids will think is cool, but they don't want to hug. That was the description of Gritty that they gave. And
serious?
Like,
did he come up with Gritty?
Yeah, Brian Freilander. And
think it's cool and don't want to hug.
Yeah. So the Flyers came to Brian Freilander and they were like,
wait,
hey,
I was about to,
we got to back all the way up. Okay.
Yeah.
You talking about this orange dude from the Flyers?
Yep.
Yeah.
All
I'm,
right.
I'm sorry, I didn't
No,
introduce that.
No.
well.
This is gonna be a great story.
Yeah, the mini. So we
So
were.
you know a guy who
Yeah.
designs
So I'll walk
mascots.
This hideous mascot.
He designed Gritty.
I'll walk through it slowly. Yeah.
Okay.
So we were doing for the show You Ought to Know at WHYY. We were doing a mini documentary series on the mascot Gritty because he's a super viral sensation. So this guy Brian Flylander, he was contacted by the Flyers, and they were like, "Hey man, we want you to design our mascot." And he was telling us that the prompt that they gave him was, we want you to make something. We want you to make a mascot that kids think is cool, but they would never want to hug. And so he was like, I got you.
Out comes Gritty.
And he went through all these different iterations, and it's cool. I got to see like the early concept designs of Gritty and stuff like that. And if you watch that miniseries, you can check it out. And yeah, that's what he made. But I had a heart-to-heart with him, and he was just like, yeah, man, like you can do it. Like this is what I do. He's like, I just wake up and, you know, I draw characters and that's it. I sell them to people. And so I just want to encourage you that it can be done. Don't ever look at the gift that God gave you and be like, I can't live in purpose, or this is not something I'm going to be able to do. Like, we all have unique backgrounds. Like, Billy, think about what you do, man. Like, what you do is so awesome and unconventional. Like, no young person is going to think right away that they can be that. And so you need to really understand that, like, there's a path for you. If God put it in your heart, man, there's a path for you, for sure.
Yeah. That's something I always appreciate about you, Andrew, is that, like, obviously these lessons and these things that have been so deeply impactful for you, you bleed, right? Because you know how much it's been made an impact. Like, you were an encourager at heart.
Have to, man.
You know,
100%.
Yeah, you dig pretty far down. Yeah. Like, you're like, okay, where's the treasure in this person? You're like, I think I see some glimmer here. That could be a puddle. It could be treasure.
Everyone has
Bro, Andrew searches for the treasure within people.
This,
like, constantly searches
encourager, 100%.
Everyone has
100.
it, man. Think about, I'm not sure if you guys are Dragon Ball Z fans, but
what? Are you kidding
dude,
me? Yes,
I've never seen that episode. Don't hate me.
Dragon Ball. Shout out to Akira Toriyama. But at the end of the Saiyan arc, Goku beats Vegeta, and Vegeta is climbing into his escape pod, and Krillin grabs a katana and is about to stab him to death. And Vegeta's been fighting Goku, and he's in no shape to defend himself. So he's kind of looking at this like katana, and Goku goes, "Stop!" And Krillin looks at him, and he's like, "What?" Like, and Vegeta gets away, and he's like, "You told me to like not kill this person. Like, he killed all of our family and friends. Who's about to destroy Earth. Like, Goku, what are you thinking?" And Goku goes, "I want to fight him one day when he comes back as someone who's good." And I was just like, whoa, you know, like as a kid, I watched that and I was like, man, like, even though Goku fought this guy till like he lost teeth, he was still like, one day he's going to change. Like, there's good in him. One day he'll come around. But I mean, that's a example, I guess, that isn't too specific to what we're talking about. But everyone has something in them that they're good at. Even the people that you look at, you know, I talked about this in our small group, but it was said by an author that treat everyone that you interact with as if they know something you don't. That's how I see everybody, man.
I love that.
Or at least that's how I try to. I can't say that that's an instinct right away, but you always treat somebody as if there's good in them, because there is, and that there's a gift in them, and they've either explored it yet, they've either explored it already, or they have yet to explore it. Yeah.
I love that idea. Now I want to push that to the extreme.
Go for it, man.
Okay, how did that work when you were moving sofas? Or like, and because like, let's just say like, I love it, and I believe that's true. But that's let's push it. You know, when you're with ex-cons, you're working with guys and just like salt of the earth. You know, they're gonna cuss you out as soon as they look at you.
Yeah.
You know, you know, we've lost the hallmark flavor of this, and now we get to like the bottom of the truth. Did you do it in that circumstance, or like what does that look like when you're like around some people that?
So short story, man. I'm not gonna give out his government. He's a great guy now. He works as a bouncer now at a music venue. Probably not anymore because of Corona, but God bless him. I hope everything's cool. We'll call him Jerry. So I worked with Jerry, and he was moving for 10 years, man. So like, dude, I heard him cuss the boss out before. I'm like, bro, you cuss the boss out? He's like, you got to get it done, man. You got to be strong with people. One day we moved this dude's house out, and he didn't have anything boxed. Like, everything was like how it is in the studio, just like kind of out. And he was like, take all this and put it in my apartment. And we were like, all right, we'll do it. And so it took us all day. And I remember the guy was going to tip us like $20 or something. And Jerry was like, no. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, and he was like, all right, $50. Nah. And he's like, what is this? He goes, we're not leaving. And he just kept going like this. Like he strong-armed a guy.
Run me my money.
Jerry strong-armed a guy into tipping us $200 a piece.
What? Yes.
I didn't name the business and I didn't name the guy.
$200 a piece?
But we got $200 a piece for an all-day job. And that same guy, I remember I'm in the truck with him and he goes, like, what's your story, man? Like, why are you here? And I was just like, I couldn't find a job. And he goes like, what do you do? And I was just like, nothing, man. I just graduated from college with a media studies and production degree. And he's like, well, you got to do something. And I showed him the comic. I've been doing this comic for about 6 years now called The Ribbon. And I showed him a few pages of this. I was like, I draw this. I draw comics. And he goes, you made this? And I was like, yeah. He's like, man, you got a gift, man. You'll find a job in no time. And I remember when he said that, I was like, thanks. Like, this is a cool job too, but thanks. It's not really what I want to do. But yeah, like it was cool to see a guy that was like that tough, like somebody that would literally bring grown dudes in a customer's house and not have them leave until we were tipped out. Also look at me and say like, that's pretty cool what you do with the cartoons, man. So like I said, people will appreciate your gift. You could be a dude out there or a woman who, you know, I just like making train models all day. Like no one cares about that. You can go on YouTube and make $1 million. Like, I mean, that's what's so great. Like even now, even what we're doing with this podcast, never before in history has there been an access for everyone to have a voice where you can just start a podcast for free. All you got to do is go to Best Buy and buy the stuff and set it up and make a program. Like you can do it. I know I sound like the most corniest coach of all time, but like you can do it, man. You can live your dream and walk in purpose and do what God has called you to do. You got to get organized about it, pray, and just go into action, man.
So Andrew, I love that.
Yeah.
When, like just being around a lot of people, I see a lot of uncultivated skills.
Mm-hmm.
So people have a natural skill set, but they don't have a clear purpose for it or like big vision. So it's easy with cartoons because you see it on TV. You're like, oh, I want to do this.
Totally, man.
Right?
Yeah.
You see this master level skill. So what would your encouragement be to somebody who has a skill, but it's left kind of uncultivated?
Uncultivated. Take advantage of other people, man. Take advantage of other people. You know, you may have a really abstract skill that you can't go to somebody about. Like if you're a mechanic, you can go hang out with mechanics all day or talk to mechanics. That's very easy to find. But say you wanted to get into something like voice acting and you live, I don't know, somewhere rural. Maybe you live in Alabama. You're nowhere near LA or New York or any of these voice acting hubs, man. You can do what's so amazing and just unbelievably overlooked. You can go on YouTube and learn from people, man. Like you can sharpen your skill. So I encourage you, man, go out and contact somebody who's doing what you want to do and learn from them, man. Ask them questions. Try and sharpen your skill, man, and add more stuff to your arsenal. Don't be satisfied with being like, I'm good at this, so it's going to get me X, Y, and Z. Always ask yourself, like, how can I be better? Like, how can I get better? The mark of an amazing artist is you have maybe something that you did in 1997 and then something that you did in 2020, and you put them side by side and they look like they were made by different people. That's how you want to be. You want to constantly be growing. And I don't want to get too business oriented with this podcast, but I mean that spiritually. And I mean that in every aspect of your life, you want to be growing. And how do you commit to growth? You get around other growers, dude. You get around other people that are growing. It's hard to grow when you're out by yourself. So get around other people that are doing what you want to do. That's the answer.
Yeah. Something that's been encouraging for me too is like, even if there's not like, I may know one or two people, or maybe like the fusion of them is what I want to do.
Yeah.
But getting around other people who are just hungry to grow, even if it's not like the same thing. So, you know, if we're hanging out together, man, this kind of like, yeah, like let's go do it. Let's get after it.
Totally.
Attitude really rubs off. And that just encourages me so much versus like hanging out with people that are just happier with the status quo. And I think, you know, we look around our friend group and like even our small group, and we see some people that are hungry, doing completely different things. Like I don't have an artistic bone in my body. Like I can be creative with ideas. I'm good with people.
Totally.
You know, I have a vision and I can run with it. But I just love being around other people that are just hungry.
I talked about this with Charles extensively, man. Like you said something so interesting. You don't think that you're a creative person, but you're creative with ideas, man. So like Genesis is very clear that like God made us in his image, and God is a creator, right? An author of ideas, and he made us. So when I say made in his image, when I was a kid, I used to think that was physically. Like I was like, oh, does the physical apparition of God have like two arms? Like what that really means is that like God created, and then he made little creators. So we're all little creators. Let that blow your mind for a second. Not because it's coming from me, but because it's coming from the Bible. We're all little creators. So our job is to make things. Like, you may think that you're not creative on the outside, but when you went to that job interview to work at wherever you're working now, you had to sell yourself. You had to get creative. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything from the clothes that I'm wearing to the couch to this building that we're in is created, you know? And so that's kind of the center of everything we know. The big creator made 1 billion little creators, and now they create everywhere. How beautiful is that? You know, and that's what we live in every single day.
Yeah.
You sit in an apartment with a bed, you sit on, and you wear little creations, and you lie down on creations. Like, it's everywhere, all around us. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing.
I love that, man. Just going back to, we had this conversation in the car, like one night, I played you a bunch of music, and, like, showing you stuff.
It was lit.
Yeah, man.
It was so lit.
But I love what you just said. But one of the things you said that night was, when you create, that's when you feel closest to God.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that.
Yeah.
When I create, when I draw, at 3:00 in the morning, often with a cheese quesadilla by my side and my and my chameleon and gecko terrariums next to my drawing table, and I'm alone and I'm just pouring into whatever I'm working on, whether it's for a friend, whether it's a comic book, whether it's any of the commissions I have, I feel a presence, man. I feel the closest to what made me, and it's very powerful. And that is the most valuable feeling in my life. And I would implore everyone to seek and find that.
I love that. What it sounds like you're saying is, when you're in your purpose, that's when you feel closest to God.
Dude, 100%.
I love it. So it could be whatever. You were created to draw. Me, I feel that way when I'm leading worship. You feel that way when you're being a campus minister. So we don't all have the same exact thing. Right. So it's just finding your purpose is what it is.
Right, Billy, like when you pour into somebody and they were super receptive about it, like, how does that make you feel, man?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. It's like, you know, that flow state almost.
Exactly.
And so like there's a very clear sense of that's like very just human. But I think for us, we also experience that as divine.
Yeah.
Not just subjectively, but objectively.
Yeah.
Right. When we are walking in our purpose and God adds his yes to it and anointing, then we experience joy. Right. Like I love this Eric Liddell, the runner. He says, great movie, Chariots of Fire, and I love quoting him. He says, "When I run, I feel the pleasure of God."
So sick.
It's because he was a runner,
dude.
He was skilled. He cultivated it, and so I think for all of us, you know, there's not just one area, but there's going to be some areas that we're uniquely. We have a passion for. We never get tired of doing it. We have a unique skill set where we can cultivate it, we can hone it, and when we do it, we feel joy.
Dude.
And that's a gift of God. And I just love that. I love hearing when you draw. When I draw, I feel nothing but frustration. Because I'm like, I can't get what's in my mind onto this paper. Not just because I haven't cultivated the skill, I'm clumsy. I can't do it. Be catching a ball, right? Like, I love throwing. I could throw for hours. Throw a frisbee, throw a baseball, throw a football. And I could just do it forever. I grew up doing that with my dad. So, you know, I experienced a lot of joy doing that. So each one of us has that different treasure. Yeah. And I think that's so important for people. And being around a lot of creative people, it's just super, like, you have to have that, like you said, affirmed, but also security in your own identity. This is who I am. Not to force it on other people, but for yourself, you're a drawer. Yeah. Right? Like I love people. I love being around people. So I'm a people person. And part of my purpose is about inspiring other people to be great, to be who God has made them. Say like, hey, see this treasure? Now go run with it. Yeah. So
it's awesome. Yeah, that's the closing line in that Robert Madu sermon that changed my life was, he said, everything that you need to accomplish in your mission has already been put on the inside of you. And I was just like, that's it, man. Facts. That's all I need to hear.
Preach,
and that's what you're doing, bro. You're telling people that. And I'm telling you, it seems so corny because when you're in elementary school, you know those like old school motivation posters where it's just like a cat that's like, hang in there. I
swear I was about to say with the cat with his arm up, you can do it.
You grow up with that stuff on the walls all the time. But man, there are kids that come from homes. And this is why I'm so passionate about kids where like the parents just like, what are you doing? Or like, they're just like, you need to focus on this. Like that's not gonna, or they never reward their kid for doing something cool. Like they've never once been like, wow, that was pretty cool. Like what you made. It breaks my heart, man. Mr. Rogers said something. I'm quoting Mr. Rogers so casually.
Well, I mean, he's a guy that, yeah.
So, I mean, obviously I work for PBS, but I will plug Mr. Rogers' documentary. So he said in this documentary, he goes, people always appreciate children for the wrong things. He goes, they always look at children as potential. He's like, they never look at them for what they are in the present. And it's like, man,
Wow.
What did Jesus say about children, right? Like, that aligns so closely with like what the Bible is saying about how the kingdom of God belongs to these. It's like, man, that's what I really want to tell people, you know, is that you're valuable. Like, you're, you know, in VeggieTales, Larry would always close out, I think it was Larry or Bob, by saying, God made you special and he loves you very much. Not enough people have heard that. And I think, I don't want to overestimate here. That's a big reason why there's a lot of problems in the world, because a lot of people have not heard that. They have either not heard it or they haven't heard it often enough. And dude, like, that's the message that I want to give to everyone. Yeah. I don't know if I know that there's a question coming up about manhood, and I'll answer that, but that ties very closely into that question.
Man, Andrew, I don't know if you listen to this, but Pastor Gabe, when we interviewed him, Dr. Bouch also,
PG.
awesome.
PGDB.
Yeah. He said something really profound, and I think it dovetails perfectly with what you said, is men and people in general typically operate out of a place of pain.
Yeah, man.
And so, and I think dealing with a lot of people, I've seen this, very sophisticated mechanisms for covering up shame, for covering up negative words, and things that have been spoken over us, things that we think about ourselves, regrets. And so just hearing a simple truth like that can be so healing.
Yeah.
God loves you. Right? What was the line?
God made you special and he loves you very much.
Yeah.
Deep. From a talking vegetable, man. But like, that's how
the power,
right? That's how life is, man. It's like, you can watch a show like Adventure Time and be like, this is really cool. And then you get to the end and you're like, what did I just watch? You know, like, that's the magic of the medium. And psychology aligns very closely with that. It says that human beings are more likely to be motivated by negative stimuli, by the consequence of something, than by the promise of reward. But that's not the way it has to be. That's just a more likely thing, right? Like, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson talks about it. He's like, I want to be the guy that every single morning my feet hit the floor, the devil goes, oh no. Like, that's a really cool way to live, where you wake up feeling empowered, man. And like, I'm not going to say that I've mastered that completely or that I live every day like that. I'm definitely striving towards it. But man, that's the type of life that I'm trying to tell people to live, man. That's what I want people to know, is like, you don't have to be motivated by the impending negative consequence. Like, you can be motivated by the promise of something positive, you know, or what's to come. Yeah.
And that's the beauty of creativity.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
As an outsider, like, visually, like, I can see other people's creativity spawn creativity in other people.
Yeah.
It's like you operating in your gift is a seed for somebody else. And it's so cool to see how that's the heart of creativity itself, is to ripple. It's to create beauty, cascades into more beauty, into more beauty.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I think it's so much easier to tear down than to build up.
Absolutely.
So, you know, like, our world is tearing things down, and as a creative, you're standing against that tide with defiance and saying, no, I'm going to create a different story with the beauty and the joy and the love that God has deposited in me,
right,
to go be a force to unlock that in other people. And that's just so cool.
Dude.
Love it, man.
I mean, shout out to my boy Peter Reeves. He's a youth pastor in Detroit. His favorite verse of all time, I believe it's 1 Corinthians 4:20. The kingdom of God is not of talk, but of power.
Yeah.
Go, be, do. That's it.
Go, be, do.
Well, it sounds funny when you say it quick, go, be, do.
Go,
you know
be,
what I'm saying? But like, go, be, do, man. Like,
Yeah.
no one's going to put it together except you. Obviously, you know, you have God's blessing and God's on your side to get all these tasks done. You know, it's not by your own power. But man, go and inspire other people and make that art and do that stuff, because that's what you've been put here to do, man. And it's like, you got to live every single day in your purpose. Not to harp on the same punchline over and over and over again, but just to reinforce what you said. I completely stand with that.
Yeah.
I have a question, like,
up,
one
man?
before we hit our wild question. Because a lot of people have different definitions of this, but to you, what is art? Like, what does it mean to be an artist?
So that's an interesting question. I took a historical art class when I was in college, where we looked at like the progression of art, and they were like, this is expressionism. And they would show you like the weird paintings with like just dots on it, and they would go for $50,000. And you're just like,
Sell for
what?
$1 million
Yeah,
bucks.
like millions of dollars. And you're normal to look at that and be skeptical, because I look at that skeptically. I'm always like, dude. And some of it is nonsense. Like, a lot of it is pretentious. But to answer your question, just point blank, art is something that makes you feel. So if you looked at that canvas and those dots made you feel something, then it is valid as art. But true art makes you feel, and it makes you feel deeply. And I think that that's how you can value something. Not to say that everything you make is going to make someone feel deeply, but the whole, right? When somebody looks at it and they appreciate the process of it, and they look at it and they have a deep appreciation for it, that's what makes art, you know? The songs that you make, Charles, like, when you listen to them, they make you feel things, right? That makes it valid as art, in my opinion.
So what's the difference between good art and profane art?
Profane art.
Oh, that's a good question.
What would you mean by profane art?
Well, I'm asking you. Because you know what I'm saying, but it's hard to define.
You mean like from a moral aspect?
Well, from, you can look at some art and say that ain't it.
Okay. I would say that skill plays into it, but it's also the intention behind the art, right? Like, what if the intention was to make it look like it was made by someone that's unskilled? Now, that has to be conveyed by the artist in a skillful way, ironically, right?
Yeah.
I always think about like the in horror movies, how like the kid draws the picture of its imaginary friend.
Yeah.
It's like an adult drew that picture, but the adult made that picture to make it look like a kid drew it, right?
Yeah.
So the art is intentionally supposed to be bad to fit what the artist is trying to convey.
Yeah.
I'm an adult. I'm trying to convey that this illustration was made by a kid. I know this is very hard to follow, but so like
No, it's good.
that's the difference. It's like, was there intention behind this art, or was this just something that you frivolously made with like no understanding of the skill that's involved in making it, right? It's like, so good art is something that you have put together mindfully to convey some sort of message, be it visually or through audio. You have some sort of intended message for it. And something that's profane is just something that's like kind of burped out into existence. Like there is no message. There was no intention behind it. It's just kind of this doodle that you made on a paper to pass the time. I guess like the prime example of that would be the classic S that everybody draws.
Yeah.
Like that's just something that your mind just onto a page. There was no intention behind it. You didn't. And I'm not saying the intention always has to be deep. Like it can just be something like the Boondocks. It can be just something funny, but like there has to be something behind it that you made to connect with somebody else. Like I want you to see this and feel this.
Yeah.
That's good art. But if you're just like, I don't know, this is a triangle and a stick in it. Well, by your definition, it's a triangle and a stick, and then it's not art.
Yeah.
I think that what you just said, like art is something that makes you feel, no matter what it is. If your intention is to make somebody feel a specific way, or sometimes people make art feel what you want about it. But if what you're creating is making somebody feel, then your job is done.
Right. Like think about the show like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, right?
Yeah.
Funny jokes, laugh track, all that stuff. And then there's an episode where Will talks about how he doesn't need his dad.
Oh,
and
God.
it's just like,
you had to go to that episode.
It's just like, why?
Such an emotional episode.
Why is this show about jokes and goofiness and silliness giving me a message about parenthood? And it's like, that's when it becomes more than a show. It's a piece of art. Somebody crafted it to get a message to bring it to you, the viewer. And that's where you got to sit back and go like, all right, there's more to this than just a laugh track, right?
Andrew, how do you know when a work of art is finished?
Dude, that's so hard. That's the hardest thing ever, man. It's just like you could constantly pick away at a song or pick away at a picture for years.
Yeah, man.
I think what it comes down to is you show it to somebody you respect, not somebody on the street who doesn't know, like that from this.
That's a key. Go ahead.
You show it to somebody that you respect, a fellow artist usually, and you go, what do you think about this? And you gauge by their reaction. But also, man, when you don't have that, because that's not always available, you just got to have the mental maturity to be like, all right, if I don't end it now, I'm going to pick on it for the next few months, and you go and take it out. So it's a balance between those two things. But yeah, I've had a lot of cool artistic mentors that have helped me out.
Yeah.
It's like game recognized game.
Game recognized game, dude. Always.
That's one of my favorite sayings.
What you were saying, man, with that verse earlier about the wounds of friends, man, that's just totally true.
That's great.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah. One more question. So how do you know when to release a work of art? So let's say you finish it, you know when it's done.
Yeah.
How do you know when it's time to put it up?
In the age of social media, it's when the most people will see it.
12 p.m. on Wednesday.
Yeah. I wish I could give you a deep answer for that, but there is none. I feel like with this coronavirus and pandemic, I've been doing like a lot of collaborative like art pieces on Instagram. Like I'm doing a big Christmas one that a lot of people that followed me could submit.
Yeah, I gave my suggestion. You ain't reply to me.
Oh no, I didn't.
Bitter much?
Bitter. Well, first off,
I'm putting you on the spot.
First off, Charles made 3 suggestions.
Which one of your crappy suggestions
All
did you
3 of them.
listen to?
Spoiler alert. You guys will see this on my Instagram. I included all of them. But yeah, I've been doing a lot of art pieces where like I'm trying to not cheer people up because I feel like that's too ambitious to say, but give people something optimistic and positive to look at. So in this time, like putting out art or putting out a podcast, it's like when I feel like the mood is down, you know, and a lot of people are struggling. For the holiday season this year, it's going to be a struggle for a lot of people. And so for me, I was like, I want to put out a cool Christmas thing for anybody that's like, I might have a rough Christmas this year. Give me a character. I'll draw it in there, and then you get to see it. It's the smallest thing, but it's my little way of being like, hey, you know, it's we're all going to get through this together, hopefully. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, man.
Man, this has been awesome, and we gotta end with
good.
with our no. This has been great. I think what's awesome, Andrew, is like again, you're just perspective on identity, what it means to be a creative.
Thanks, man.
Growing skill, because I know I'm around a lot of creatives, and I think they're gonna really benefit from this. But we kind of want to put an explanation point on it and just say, with our wild question, when did you know that you became a man?
Yeah, and before I launch into that, because I know we're about to exit, I just want to say thank you so much for allowing me on here.
Yeah.
I met you guys kind of like semi-recently in my life, and you guys have made such a positive change in my life. I'm so grateful for both of you. Seriously.
Appreciate you, man.
That means so much.
Yeah,
you guys have helped tremendously. And I'm very honored to be on The Wild Way. I know this podcast about men, so we're circling back to the manhood question. So my question is twofold. One is where I learned the definition, and I guess one is where I became one. My answer is twofold, rather. I'm not sure if I said that. But so when I was in youth group, I was part of a youth group called Extreme Faith Youth Group at Philadelphia Christian Center. Shout out to PC, my youth pastor, and a really great man. We had a classic, you know, like where they separate the boys from the girls kind of night. So our boy activity was just to go to Philadelphia. So like we went to Philadelphia and we got cheesesteaks, and PC and my youth pastor is like, let's go play football on the art steps. Dude, it's like 9 p.m. So like we went to the art steps and we're playing touch football. And I didn't really play. I wasn't that good. I was just kind of looking and having fun. But at the end of the night, like we didn't do like any sermon. There was nothing spiritual. And we're about to leave, and PC goes, all right, we gotta. He's like, we gotta do something here. Like this is right before we're about to get into the van, and he asked the question that you just asked me, but in a different way. He goes, what's the definition of a man? Like just out of nowhere, and we're all just like, I don't know. And he goes, come on, like give me some answers. Like, is it how many girls that you've gotten with? Is it how much money you have? How powerful you are? And another abbreviated name, my friend JC. It stands for Juan Carlos. Shout out to Juan Carlos Meza, my boy. He raised his hand, and PC goes, what's up? What's your answer? He goes, I don't really know how to describe it, but I feel like a man is somebody that will go up to a stranger and says, Jesus loves you, and get punched in the face, fall on his back, get up with a bloody nose, wipe his nose, and say, Jesus loves you. Again, like that's exactly what he said. And it was quiet, and PC goes, that's a good answer. He goes, I believe a man is somebody that stands up for what he believes no matter what might happen to him. And I was just like, whoa. And he was like, all right, that's it. And we just like, we packed in the van, and we went back to church. So the day that I became a man with that definition in mind, I believe a man is somebody who, in my definition, because I believe in what the Bible preaches and I believe in the love of God being expressed through us, I believe a true man expresses that to others, right? When I was an RA in college, I'm sorry I'm so long-winded. I'll make it fast. When I was an RA in college, I dealt with a lot of different students that had problems. So I'd answer all sorts of questions. And I remember one day my door was open, and I was so used to having, students walk in and tell me what was up, and I'd close the door and I'd have the little bowl of M&Ms there for them. A coworker came in. We'll just call her Kate. That's not her real name. she came in and I was expecting her to like tell me something about what we're supposed to do today. And she goes, "Can I talk to you?" And I was like, "Yeah, what's up?" And she goes, "My grandmother died." And I was just like, "Oh, okay, yeah." And I closed the door and I was like, "I'm so sorry to hear that. Like, what's going on? Like, how do you feel?" And she was about to like acknowledge, I guess verbally, like how she felt. And she just started violently sobbing, just like really, really crying like bad. And I didn't know what to do, man. Especially as dudes, like, sometimes we're really not that great with that.
Emotions.
And so, I was just like, and like I'm seeing her crying, and the first thing I felt to do was like say something to comfort her, but I knew that in my spirit that I couldn't do that. And so, dude, I just held this person, and it's weird because time kind of stood still. Senior year of college is weird because you have so much stuff going on. You have term papers, and you're worried about how you're going to get a job, and on top of all RA, there's so much stuff going on in my life. But I remember I just held this woman like just close to me and just let her cry on my chest, like my shirt was just soaked. And I didn't say anything, man. Like I just let her cry. And I realized that like I felt like I could smash through a concrete wall because I was showing the love of God to somebody just non-verbally. Like I was just holding them, And there's something powerful about that. I think just when somebody's in need, I feel like a true man is here to protect, A true man, that doesn't mean they're always a tough guy or that they're impervious or that they're Superman. But as men, we're defenders and we're providers. In that moment, I felt like I was embracing someone that needed me. And I was like, I feel like I'm a man right now. Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful story, man. Well, Andrew, if people want to connect with you, they want to find out what you do, your podcast.
Plug time.
Tell us about your everything. Tell us about this apparel. You got matching shoes.
So,
What did you call it? Billy?
Apparel?
No. His outfit earlier. What was the name?
I don't know. Starboy, Star-Lord over here.
It's all good inside jokes. But yeah, so first off, thanks for watching this podcast. Thank you for watching Wild Way. These guys are awesome. Pete, I'm a bad substitute for Pete, but he's an awesome guy too. But I have to say, 2 weeks from now, I'm going to be in a podcast called the Pillars of Growth podcast. So that's Pillars of Growth. You can find them on Instagram. That's my good friend, Graham Lichtner, who's a personal trainer out in LA. Great guy. I'm going to be on that next. But to see my art, Arcangeli Design at Instagram, if you look up The Ribbon and then my name, Andrew Arcangeli, on Google, you'll see my comic. My podcast is called The Andrew Cast. There hasn't been a lot of new updates because of Corona, but we're going to have a PlayStation 5 episode pretty soon. Nice. And if there's anything I have to say to you guys, it's just to remind you of that verse in Matthew, which is about the sparrows. And, how they don't toil or store up anything. God cares for them, and aren't you more significant than a sparrow? You might feel really small and powerless in the situation that's going on in the world right now because there's a lot that's flying over our heads that's bigger than what we are. And I just want to encourage you that God's in control. That's it.
Man, what a great way to end it. We'll have all the links to that stuff in the description below.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
And Charles, why don't you end us out here, man?
Yo, go be wild.
Go be wild.
Get wild,
Let's go.
son.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching this episode of the Wild Way Podcast. Make sure to like it, subscribe down below, drop a comment, and share with a friend if you enjoyed it.